No.
Thanks.
Thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting today. Welcome to Cabinet members, roundtable officers have also joined us here and those that are joining us online. For those joining us online, watching on Zoom, the agenda can be found by the link in the section under the video. I'd like to welcome Councillor Trevor Johnson, who's our portfolio holder for environmental recycling, Councillor Jill Waring, our portfolio for leisure, culture and heritage, and our deputy leader and portfolio holder for finance, town centres and growth, Councillor Stephen Sweeney, and I'm the leader, Councillor Simon Tagg. We have a couple of apologies today. Paul Northcott, who's got a county council meeting, and secondly, Jill, who's come down with a cold late on. She was due to come, but with a very bad cold. Nothing worse than a bad cold, thankfully. So she sends her apologies also. Item 2 on our agenda is declarations of interest. Do I have any of those for items on the agenda from members? Not seeing any. Minutes of the last meeting, attached page 5 to 10. Can we agree those as the correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 4, Wallace Quarry odour issues, and an update on those. We've been bringing reports to every cabinet now for, we're into over a year almost of this now, and we've got another report coming forward today. And I think this is a really important one because we'll be concentrating on the recent upsurge in odours and gas odours from the site. Also, obviously the complaints that have been received, and also the details of the monitoring, and then also some information on how partners, including the council, want to take this forward. Clearly, now that the site, this isn't getting any better, hasn't been getting any better, and are we at the end of the the regulatory path on this and what we do next? So I'll hand over to Martin, our Chief Executive, who's going to introduce the report and give us an update on where we are.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, over the last year, as you say, we've been bringing these reports, and I've been reporting, particularly in the last 6 months or so, a steady decline in hydrogen sulfide levels and complaints, albeit not down to the level that we would want to see. In January, that changed. But before we come to January, just to summarise 2021 and the year that was, we received in 2021 just over 22,000 complaints about Wally's Quarry. Now, for all of our environmental services, so that is noise nuisance, that is pests, that is other odours and bonfires and all the other things that people complain about, 2 out of every 3 complaints that we had was actually to do with odours from Wally's Quarry. In addition to our complaints, the Environment Agency have received over 43,000 complaints in that year. So, this remains certainly for ourselves, by some measure, the largest single source of complaints that the council has experienced. In January, as I say, something has changed. So we saw in the week commencing the 10th of January, there was a particularly bad week, and the concentration, what we measure is, and what we report on, is the percentage of time that the odour is above the World Health Organization annoyance threshold, which is for hydrogen sulfide is 5 parts per billion. For the week beginning the 10th of January, we were over that annoyance threshold at up to 53% of the time. That's at the Gallingale site, but it was also up across all of the other 3 sites. And on the week beginning the 17th of January, slight improvement, but it was still over 40% of the time at the Gallingale site. We were above that threshold. So certainly the 10th of January, 10th to 16th, that's the worst figure we'd seen since May last year. And before I get into some of the implications of that, in the report, in paragraph 3.1, you'll see that I've presented a new table here, which shows the complaints that we've received and the complaints that the EA have received by each week. And with that, the percentage of time that the monitoring stations are recording odours above that World Health Organization annoyance threshold. And you will see that there is a pattern that where the odours are being measured as going up at those sites, then so our complaints are actually following that and actually follow it with some degree of subtlety. So if you look at the first 3 weeks of January, when at Gallingale, the odours were above the annoyance threshold for 16% of the time, we had 73 complaints. When it went up to 53% of the time, 258% complaints. And then when it came back down again, the numbers come down, but nowhere near what they were at the beginning of January. So there's actually quite a good correlation between the complaint data and the odour data. And I think what that tells me is that the complaints are genuinely people responding to what they're seeing on the ground. Looking at the information that we've had from those 2 weeks, I think there are 3 issues for me that come out of that. When we have a monitoring station that over a week is averaging 53% of the time above the annoyance threshold, that average is going to include some times when it's lower and sometimes when it's higher than that. So I would anticipate when we do see the verified data for each day that make up that average, we don't see that until it's been verified and analysed. But I would anticipate that we will see some days where most of the day will have been above that annoyance threshold, and it could be up to say 80% of the day that would be like that. The other days would be less. Now, clearly, even at 53% of the time, for people to be experiencing odours that are above that annoyance threshold, I think that's intolerable. The second issue for me in this is really about the cause of the spikes. In an ideal scenario, if we had the information coming from Wally's Quarry Limited and coming from the Environment Agency that would allow us to say up front to the public, we're going to be doing X, Y, Z on site, or we're going to have these meteorological conditions and doing X, Y, Z on site, and therefore it's likely that there will be an odour. We don't have that. The second best scenario then is to be able to say the odours that you experienced yesterday or the odours that you experienced last week are because of X, Y, Z. And what we're seeing at the moment is we don't have a timely analysis of what has actually caused these spikes. So we don't have at the stage a public statement that's actually saying this is what the issue is. Now, from past experience, it's conceivable that this is going to be a mix of issues with capping, potentially issues with gas management on site, which of course capping is an important part of. But really at this stage, a year on from the worst weekend at the end of February, I'd like to be in a position where we had that very timely explanation, ideally before an event, but certainly promptly afterwards. The third issue for me then is the impact on health. The UKHSA, the Health Security Agency, have been doing risk assessments. And one of the things that members be aware of is the assessment, not just of the short-term health impact and the mental health impacts and the eye irritations, etc., but also what the long-term exposure risk is. Now, the last risk assessment that was done identified that there was currently any risk to long-term lifetime physical health is likely to be small. However, the UKHSA cannot completely exclude a risk to health from pollutants in the area where exposure continues above the long-term health-based guidance value. Now, my concern is that these 2 weeks in January move us away from that coming down to 2 parts per billion, which is the long-term health guidance. So that gives me some concern. I think for the community, there's really three key questions. Is the hydrogen sulfide coming off the site going to harm me? What's being done to fix this, and when will it be fixed? Those feel like three very credible questions. And at the moment, with this uptick in January, I'm less content than I have been that we really have got a robust set of answers to those questions. And it's really coming out of that concern and conversations that we've had with the County Council that one of the next steps that we feel we need to make is that direct appeal to DEFRA to come and try and do something significant in terms of the enforcement on the site.
Okay, thank you, Martin. There's a really comprehensive update there for us, I think, and that message, that's exceeding more than 50% of the time for the weeks 10 to 16th of January. And I think really this started to resurge again over the Christmas period, and there's obviously had those peaks, and then it's dropped back again, and then it's come back with a vengeance. Even this morning, as I was driving through town early on to go down to Stafford, you could smell that rancid, horrible gas odour that we all know so well in our town centre over a mile away from the site. So, and it's really interesting, some of those figures that, that haven't quite been verified. I'm interested to see when they are verified of even higher percentages as well that may have been experienced by people over a daily period, which again is concerning for people's health and concerning for people's mental health and well-being. And I think the end of your report there about what else we should be doing and what else we can do, I think that taking this now to DEFRA, I think we've seen with the EA over a number of months over the last year where they, I believe, failed in their obligation really to regulate the site and to keep this operator running the site in a compliant way. And we don't seem to be getting anywhere this year after. So I think there needs to be a step change in that. But thank you for your report, Martin. I'll open it up now to the Cabinet to put some views forward. Stephen first.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. No, this is a nuisance value. I've said this every time. This doesn't mean it doesn't smell all the time. It's just the nuisance value. I mean, why on earth should you have to smell sulfur dioxide right all the time? This very exceeds the health thing, but the smell's still there. It's absolutely dreadful. I think I'll be careful with the words I say now. I think we heard of the MP yesterday speaking in the Commons under parliamentary privilege, naming certain things that he felt were put into this landfill, and it just beggars belief. Really, it's absolutely appalling. But I think thank you for all your work, Martin. Thank you for your report.
Jill.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just a general comment, really. I just want to say I think how the council have dealt with this so far. I think we should commend the officers. The amount of time that's been spent on this, it's bigger than anything that's happened in my time on the council. Clearly the stink isn't going away, but I just do feel confident that everything that can be done is being done. And I do appreciate these updates. It's really frustrating. It's gone on for so long, and I just don't know how people are living with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Trevor.
I have a problem. You said, that the figures now are the same as they were last May. So we're virtually getting full circle. And since last May, we've capped it, we put wells in, we've still got a stink. I just cannot understand it.
Yeah, I mean, we placed a lot of hope, didn't we, on the posi shell, which is this coating, and it's supposed to be a internationally known coating, but we always knew it was only a temporary measure. I think we found that, and we've had reports from residents about weeds going through, about vehicles going over it, and cracks appearing in it's not a positive capping. I think we need to move what I was saying last year, what the council was saying last year, and that is a permanent capping off the site and an end to operations. I think we're approaching that stage now. That's why we really need to go to DEFRA now, the government office and the Secretary of State, and that's what we will begin to do. But I think, we met as a council at a special meeting back in March called by all parties, and we wrote to the government and asked them to do a public, independent public inquiry into the regulatory failure of the EA during this period for over a number of years, and also we've had more to it, really, I believe, since last March. And I think we wrote back and said, well, we could make a complaint to the EA, and if the EA didn't deal with it officially, we could then make a further complaint to the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman. And at that point, when we received that back in the early summer, the EA was coming out with a lot of proposals. There was about the gas drum, there was about the POSI shell. That took many months to arrive, and the gas wells many months to start. But I think now we're at a situation where, I think we should make a formal complaint to the EA as a council on behalf of the residents of Newcastle. We're not happy with the way that regulation of the site has taken place over a long period by them. And then if that we haven't got a satisfactory result out of that, we should refer it to the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman with the help of our MP, because that's the way this MP would have to take it up for us, Erin. And if we don't get a satisfactory resolution to our complaint, so I wouldn't wish to, move that as a recommendation today, as well as accepting this report and listening to Martin, seeing that I think you're quite right, Trevor, going backwards or we're coming full circle or whatever you want to use. We're just not getting to where we needed to go on this. And I think that's a failure of the regulation of the site. But as Stephen said, what our MP was talking about in Parliament and revealing under parliamentary privilege was a disgrace, was an absolute ghastly disgrace that needs to be investigated. And I'm afraid it happened on under the EA's nose and on their watch. So that's why we need to, make that formal complaint. And I'd like to add that as a recommendation. Members will support me to have a second of that. Everybody's done that, so we will do that. So I think the way forward for us as a council is that we do move with our partners. The County Council is standing firm with us here, and their public health responsibilities. And I think the Health Agency, from the National Health Agency as well, see that we have the regulatory path which the EA has been taking is failing, has failed. And I think we need to move now to another alternative. So we will seek a meeting with DEFRA. Our MP will be involved, and also the County Council and Public Health. And I think that's the way forward on this. But thank you, Martin, again, and for the work that our officers are doing. They live in the community, they smell it, they come into work and they smell it. We smell it in this building as well, in the town centre on many occasions. And it is a horrible smell. And the closer you get to it, the more that it stinks. And I've noticed since the Christmas period, people that hadn't contacted me for many months since some of the improvement, who aren't on social media, so aren't being whipped up by some sort of frenzy, which of course can happen, is that these are people, just normal people in my ward, that are contacting me again to say, this is intolerable, this is horrible, this is keeping them awake, this is affecting their mental health, and we must take it seriously. And on the back of the revelations in Parliament, I think it's even more urgent that the government and the government ministers take action on not only the EA, but also about the future of this site, and I believe that is cap it off. Any other comments? Okay, we've got the recommendation before us that we note the report with concern, and that we endorse that the council obviously makes representations with DEFRA with our partners. And then secondly, we do submit a formal complaint about the regulatory favour of the EA. And then if necessary, we then escalate that up through the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman with the help of our MP if we don't get a satisfactory response. All agreed?
Okay.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the urban tree planting strategy update and designation of urban carbon capture areas. Really pleased to bring this report. Again, a very positive report compared with the last one. I think what we've taken through Cabinet last summer was the formation of an urban tree planting strategy, and we've already done phase one of that, where we've planted trees on two sites in the borough. One in Maybank Ward, which is Sandy Lane green space, the end of Sandy Lane, and also up in Kidsgrove on the recreation ground to complement the pub track and some trees. And I know that all Cabinet members have been involved in this. And then we've got a second phase as well, which we're starting imminently to actually tie in as well with the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and a number of sites which are detailed in the report, which will have tree planting as part of a potential series of measures for carbon reduction on those sites. And we've also got a phase 3 that's listed in the report, which will start in the autumn. Of course, people will know there's a planting season, so you can't plant trees in the middle of the summer. What you have to do is plant them from October to March, weather permitting, and get those trees in the ground. But what we're also doing is a recognition of the fact that we need to move down the route of tree planting as part of our carbon reduction strategy. What we are going to do in this report is to designate a number of urban green spaces as urban carbon capture areas. This will protect them in policy, in the council's policy, but also in the new emerging local plan. Now, they're detailed in the appendix, and they are quite a lot, probably most of the urban green space that's owned by the council. We can only affect that, really. We can't go on to private owned land and start planting trees on that. This is council owned land. And you'll see on there's across the borough, in wards in the south of the borough, the central of the borough, the north, the east, the west, and up in Kidsgrove and Talk area, you'll see a commitment there to protect green space and also to plant trees and, as I say, other measures such as grasses and bushes. There are some grasses and bushes that are actually better than trees at carbon reduction. And this will all then feed into the council's environment strategy, which is all about reducing carbon and being carbon neutral as a council by 2030. So taking this step, it's a bold step. It's a thing that reverses a number of years of land being put forward for sale. I mean, recently we were talking about the extension of the crematorium, which we agreed to on the land in Bradwell, abutting Arnold Grove. We put that into this this carbon capture policy as well as a recognition that we're going to use that for tree planting too and for carbon reduction measures, and they'd be then protected in the council's policy and in the local plan. So I think we hear a lot about Save Our Green Space, particularly from members of the Green Party who don't live in Newcastle, who are from the North Staffordshire Green Party, some of them based in Stafford, others in Stoke, claiming that this administration and this council is only interested in selling green space and paving over green space and cutting down trees. Well, the council isn't cutting down any trees, hasn't cut down any trees unless, as Dave would jump in, our operations, unless they are dangerous and need to be cut down. But then we do replant them. We've seen that on Wolfstanton Marsh recently, where we've replanted trees that are many ancient trees that have come down because they're unsafe. So I think the move here is a step change and something which we want to take to full council as part of the budget. I want to amend or include in the budget papers that we're discussing next, is that the council endorse the formation of the urban carbon capture areas as listed in Appendix 1. This isn't an exhaustive list, as it says at the top of that list. This is what's been put forward by members, cross-party members, and the Cabinet for green spaces. But there will be more council-owned green spaces in the urban area to be considered later. But this will be a massive change, and the tree planting that we've already committed to during this planting season to end in March, and then to start again in the October planting season of 2022, comes to about 10 football pitches of urban green space, preserved, used for tree planting and other measures. And I just want to touch on and report about the community involvement in this through the website we've got and the publicity we'll do around these individual green spaces. We've already started to do it on the 2 sites in the Westlands. It's already been ongoing in the Sandy Lane green space area, and of course we know consultation we did up in Newcastle over the recreation ground and the pump track, is that we want the public to be involved in this. These are their green spaces, these are their green lungs, and as you can see from the list, there is a massive amount of land, and we will be planting out and enhancing green space to the size of 10 football pitches over the next year, and then that will grow and grow in the future. We've also included on the list all our formal parks. They were never under threat. They were never going to be built over. So when I see on social media groups saying that parks and open spaces are under threat, those parks have already been saved, have been saved. I'm talking about Wolfstanton Marsh, talking about Brampton, talking about Lyme Valley, talking about Bathpool, talking about Chesterton Park, and all the other parks in the borough. They are protected, but they will also come under this designation of an urban capture area because the space within there where we can do trees, plant trees and do other carbon reduction measures. So this is a really important document that we're bringing here, and a policy and a decision to designate those areas under the urban carbon capture initiative for us. I'll open it up to comments there. I think Trevor wants to come in first.
I just think, as long as it's irreversible, looking into the future, we can't have laws change and things go back to where they were. This is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Trevor. Well, this cabinet is committing to it, and I hope the full council commit to it on the I think it's 23rd of February. But of course, we are entering the election season, and people are getting very political. And this administration, this Conservative administration, is committing ourselves to this, and any future administration can come in and change that. So that will be fought very hard, I believe, by any resident who lives around these green spaces. So we'll do our best and take our message to the people of the borough that we are protecting these green spaces as listed, and that list can grow. And I think we'll help the council and help the borough to become carbon neutral, and also save those environments and enhance those environments. Particularly, that's why we focus it on those urban green spaces, because they're the ones, if you lose them, they're gone forever and concreted over with houses or roads or whatever, and they're lost forever. And we need those in our urban areas. I can think of them in my ward. We can all think of them in our ward, in all your wards. And I think this just hits the right note on that and can take us forward. Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, a few things really I'll point out I like about this when it comes to the actual areas. They also acknowledge the importance of the right tree in the right place. Now, I live on Clumber Avenue, as most people know, and there's trees on Clumber Avenue that should be in the middle of the forest. Not so. I think the right tree in the right place is a very, very useful point. Consultation with the appropriate stakeholders is in progress regarding the first phase sites. We talked about fruit trees being planted, like urban orchards or something. What a good idea that is. Ward members of the phase 2 sites have been provided with a pack including a consultation letter that can be delivered to residents and a plan of the particular site involved, with the intention that ward members can determine and undertake appropriate distribution. Speaking with our residents to get them on board, ideally sensible. The actual sites, some of the highlights were made. I believe on their phase 2, Westbury Road, Westbury Park and Northwood Ward. I believe that Labour Party are going to put that forward to sell for housing, that site, so that'll preserve that. They won't be playing tricks with that again. There's other ones on here. There's the Clayton Road site opposite the shops. It's actually a Weston's ward, but people think it's in Clayton, but it's in Weston's ward. But that's one. You've got land off Beckley Place, Clayton, for example. That's an old children's playground. The stuff got taken away donkeys years ago, and it's just left there. Ideal. Land off Seven Drive, Kennett Place. People talk to me about this frequently, about putting trees on there. Land off Wye Road, Bunny Hill, preserving Wye Road, and then the whole Bunny Hill area. No, excellent. I think it's really, really good. The only thing that I have missed there is the formal parks and open spaces. There's a list of all our parks, and I don't see Lyme Valley there. So I think perhaps we could add Lyme Valley Parkway on that one. There's sites on it talk about putting trees behind home base, putting trees on the old Pitcher Putt golf course, which I've got no problem with at all. Excellent ideas, but I think perhaps if we could put Lyme Valley on there as well.
I think so. I think looking at Dave, I think because we'd included it on the 2 tracks which are already in phase 3.
Yeah.
We just need to include that. Of course, as I say, it's not an exhaustive.
No.
Yeah.
But I think the Pitcher Putt golf course is just sitting there doing nothing. I mean, what ideal place to put trees on?
A nice canal walk.
Yeah. Okay. It's in the back of home base. No, I absolutely endorse. I think excellent plus. Thank you.
Jill.
Yes, thank you, leader. Yeah, I love trees, and planting trees is just a marvellous thing for all of us. If carbon storage is one of the most important benefits of planting urban trees, there are other benefits. I was involved in the first phase of planting, which was at the Newcastle recreation ground, when we had a group of children from the local school, and it was a freezing cold day. It was raining, it was windy, the mayor was there and the umbrella was blowing inside out, and these kids had a fantastic time. They were wet through, covered in mud, rosy cheeks, handfuls of worms and beetles and goodness knows what. And we just had a fabulous time. And those children will grow up in the knowledge that they helped plant those trees and be proud of it and know that they've done something to help the environment. So I'm really, really pleased about it. I'm looking forward to the next phase, in phase 3, when they come again to Kids Grove and Mount Cop. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So recommendations before us there. So obviously note phase 1. We also endorse phase 2 of the planting, and then obviously acknowledge phase 3 that starts from autumn and winter. Of course, I think in the report that you picked out, Steve, it says about what was the wording you picked out, just to clarify for anybody that might want to misinterpret this. Under consideration means the phasing of those. I think we have to find the site again of availability of trees throughout that period between October and March, which will be going into 2023 then, won't it? So that's important. And then Cabinet, we did put a 2 hectare limit when we originally agreed the policy back in last summer. So we wish to remove that, which will allow some of the bigger areas to come into play on this in the bigger urban areas, such as Clayton Field, such as Clay Hanger in Bradwell, and such as Arnold Grove Cemetery, crematorium, sorry, not cemetery, area in Bradwell as well. And then item 6, that all council-owned sites in phase 1, 2 and 3 and future phases outlined in Appendix 1 are designated as urban carbon capture areas in the open space green infrastructure strategy, which is the council's own strategy on how it protects its green space. And then appropriate designation in the developing local plan, and that be taken forward by our planning policy officers to ensure that. And then I will add to that we ask council to endorse obviously the creation of these carbon capture areas to be protected in the policies as outlined. So I'll move that as an amendment to item 6. But with that, do we? Okay, thank you. Next item is the revenue and capital budget and strategies 22-23. Stephen's going to introduce this.
Okay, thanks. I'll be brief with normal because I've talked about this dozens of times now. This is the last time I spoke. We've had things have happened. We've received feedback from scrutiny on this matter. We've also had the feedback from the consultation we do with residents. Now that was very interesting because the council services that they put most value in our residents. Town centre regeneration. Yep. Parks, playground and open spaces. Oh, we just talked about that one. Yep. Street cleaning. Yep. And refuse collection. I think it's fair to say that those are big priorities for us as well. So I'm happy with that. This budget is a sound budget. The council tax rise is 1.99%, which is less than it could be. Yes, less than it could be, and it works out to something like £4.10p for Plan B property a year, not a week, a year. I think it's an excellent budget, and I'm very happy to support all the stuff on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, completely endorse you on that, and obviously the 1.99% council tax increase, which is lower than in previous years, and as you point out, is a very small amount per week and over the year. So I think it's a budget which, again, has been through scrutiny and I believe received endorsement, didn't it, from those members that were present. And also the consultation again fits in with the people's priorities on that higher turnout of consultation than we had last year, shows that those priorities are central to this budget and being carried forward. Again, we've got our Borough Growth Fund, which we've used in previous years to pump prime funding and investment in areas for the council, and we're using that again this year. And as it points out under 2.77, we've got the investment areas for this year for £250,000. Under some headings there, environmental sustainability, one council programme, economic development, to put a bit more flesh on the bones of that, and also we will take this list through to council later in February. On the environmental sustainability 100k, we're looking to obviously aid us becoming a carbon neutral council, and that's the preparation of our action plan for the council's estates and operations to achieve that net zero by 2030. We've got to establish a baseline, we've got to have this measurable, and we've got costed actions against that net zero plan, and we'll use 50k of that money to be able to pump prime that and get us in a position where we can do that. We've got the urban tree planting strategy, which we've just talked about, money in this to get those trees in the ground in those phases we've just outlined in the previous item on the agenda, starting from now and going through to the autumn period, 22-23, which is part of this budget period. So we use 50k to do that. And then supporting our partnership working on climate change and sustainability. We signed up to a climate emergency motion the council did unanimously in 2019, which pledged that we work across the board. Newcastle doesn't sit as an island on its own, it sits in Staffordshire, Staffordshire sits in the country, the UK sits in the world, and we've got to all do this together. We've got to do our bit, working with our local councils through what's been formed a sustainability board, which has got the county council and all the districts involved. We're going to be working on a baseline pledge that all councils can sign up to, and we need to put some money into that over the next year as well. So we're going to use some of this environmental sustainability fund in the budget growth fund to do that. Next one is the One Council initiative. We've got many projects ongoing in the One Council initiative, and that is to save money for the budget for next year and future years. We've delivered on those savings this year as part of this budget. So the confidence is we can do that as we go forward on the One Council project. So there's a number of projects which are sort of head of the One Council, Georgie, is undertaking, and there's a lot of HR implications for that, and staff, training up and moving within the organisation and getting, better roles in the organisation as well as part of this, and enhancing our staff and the development of our staff. And then the final one is economic development. And that's a really important part of the council's business, as we take advantage as much as we can of the town deal investment and future high street fund investment, but also in enhancing our town centre. We've used money over the past years from the Budget Growth Fund to help our market, to help our car parking initiatives. And we want to use some of this money to extend the Marshall scheme, which has had a massive difference in town. 2 of our marshals that are partnership funded are going out and making sure that people that are misbehaving in the town, are rough sitting as we call it, they're not homeless, they come in to rough sit and beg, are moved along, and that anybody walking around the town in the last month or so would have seen the difference and the enhancement that those have been, as part of also the neighbourhood focus through the extra street cleaning we've done. So I think that's really good and money well spent to continue that. We've only got until March through this, and through some partnership funding we'll be able to increase them for another 6 months as well, to keep them going on an ongoing basis for the rest of the year. And then obviously to enhance some of the projects we've already got ongoing, and to help our town centre to become that magnet for events and for footfall. We'll be helping through that 50k to do that as well. And also to kickstart some of the regeneration projects in the town as well, to ensure reusing and transforming some of the first floor units that the council owns into residential units. That'll bring an income in for the council, which is a key part of the Borough Growth Fund. It either makes savings, transforms services, or brings an income. So that will help in the town centre. So plenty, really stretching that 250,000 for the benefit of the borough and for our town centre and for the environment to move forward, and also to help with the council's One programme. So I thought I'd outline those. Those will be detailed in detail for the council meeting, which all councillors can then endorse in February. But before we move the recommendations, just to add the extra recommendation, which we'll be asking members to endorse the carbon capture areas designation of that we discussed earlier. So I'll open it up to comments now on the budget. Trevor.
Well, I'll just say I'm actually proud to be a member of this administration over this last 4 years now. We've gone from strength to strength as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Trevor. And Jill.
I'm really pleased that we've been able to produce a balanced budget again while maintaining the increase of less than 2%.
Thank you, Jill. And what's been obviously a very difficult time for everybody during the pandemic, back into lockdowns, coming out of lockdowns, and now we're emerging from what we hope is the final lockdown and reopening and all restrictions being lifted. We want our town centres, we want our borough to be clean, we want our environment to be saved, and we're going to focus on that. And we talked about getting back on track back in March last year, didn't we? We were beginning to think about post the first lockdown, and this is what we're doing, getting back on track. We have a very, very good council plan that we adopted in 2018 that has taken us through to the end of this term, and we're delivering on it. And the bigger things, such as Kids Grove Sports Centre, that's coming towards completion. That's in our capital programme here, which comes along with this budget here, and other investments across the borough on people's priorities. And as I said, and as Stephen said, when we've been out and asked the public, they've come back with the same priorities that are embedded in this budget in our council plan. And that is, cleaner, safer borough, a town centre that's improved and is open for business. And we're delivering on all of those as well. So anything further to add before we move on, Steve? No. Okay, so recommendations before as well. One added about the endorsement of the saving the green space carbon capture areas. All agree? Agree. Okay, item 7 is the appointment of the external auditor for the 5-year period 23 to 24. Steve, can you introduce us all?
Yeah, the current orders run out for the 22-23, so next financial year run out. And we have to appoint, they're already set on for X number of years. So we have 2 ways we can do it. We can set up our own independent panel and bring experts in to do this, that, and the other, and we can work by ourselves to do that. We're all fishing in the same pond though, so it'll be the same people. we can do it that way, or we can do it as a unified county with every district, the county and Stoke all involved in it, and use this procurement exercise that we do now to save money to get better value for the residents. And it's just an obvious solution to take. Everybody else is doing it, and I can see absolutely no reason why we don't join in as well and do it. Save everybody money, everybody get the same response and just do it as a unified. Thank you. That's also.
Thank you. So thank you, Steve, for moving them. I think that's a very valid point about working together and enhancing the two tiers. So just almost in working with our colleagues, and that's coming up on item 8, more about that. But thank you for moving recommendations on those. All agreed? Okay, item 8, is the formation of Staffordshire Leaders Board. Just following on from what I just said, this is about the districts across the county working with the county council together to enhance the services we deliver to the public. There's been a lot of talk of this over the years, and some baby steps in it, but really over the last year or so, the pace has really gathered on this, where we can work together. One of the catalysts of that has been the move towards the the carbon reduction and the sustainable environment, which all councils are faced with. Every council across the county has passed the climate change emergency, which puts us all in the same place. So working together on such things as that is a no-brainer. Planning, again, working together on that. We're all doing our local plans at the moment. We're all either refreshing them, more like Newcastle bringing forward its new local plan. So working together on things like that makes sense. I think what the bigger picture on this is the government's obviously levelling up agenda and white paper, and they want to see local government working together for the benefit of its community, and also working together with stronger, and also from that we can get extra powers and also funding to deliver some of the stuff that government wishes to devolve down to us. In the past, and even still now, the government prefers the mayoral model and unitary councils, but also they want to see local councils such as the ones in Staffordshire with the county come forward with proposals on how we can do it differently here and work together on the enhanced 2-tier and have some of those powers and cash to really make a difference to our local areas. And I think they've seen we're delivering on Future High Streets funds, we're delivering on the town deals. They're giving us, multi-million pounds worth of money across the county, in Newcastle, particularly in Kidsgrove and the Borough. So inevitably from this, we want to put in a bid to the government for some powers and some funding to be able to work together on a sub-regional basis, working together with the county under leadership of the leader of the council to improve services for residents, which is the key thing we wish to do. But this report today is to authorise and to support the setup of a leaders board, which will have obviously the leader of the Borough Council, all of the district leaders, plus the leader of the county council, and will be chaired by the leader of the county council to work on that enhanced 2-tier measures which we've got in place at the moment, and also to consider a bid to the government for that sort of ultimate levelling up powers and funding down to the county and districts as working together. So that's the recommendation. I'll open to comments. Steve?
No, I think it's the same as the authors thing, and they working together. You see strength and all that sort of thing. And the leader of the county's leader, the county council leader, and all the districts involved. No, I absolutely support it.
Okay, any other comments on that? Just to, from Newcastle's point of view, there's the issue of Stoke-on-Trent, and they are not part of this as it is at the moment, because I believe this features on enhancing a 2-tier, which of course is there's only one tier of government in the city, and they've got ambitious plans and talking to the government. And good luck to them on that. But there is, rafts of work, of areas of work where we can work together across the county and the city. We must do that, whether it's transport or whether it's on climate change. But I think this leaders board pitches at the moment of county and borough districts working together is the right approach. And I think we can endorse it on that basis. So the recommendation for us is we agree the establishment of the leaders board and Newcastle participation in that. And obviously note the appointment of the leader of the council to the board, and then a named cabinet member as a substitute. So I think that will be the deputy leader, Councillor Stephen Sweeney, which we'll put forward for that. And then obviously I think we'll be having regular reports back through to this cabinet and also council on the enhanced 2-tier, particularly on the sustainable environment and climate change side of it, which is the key driver and the key bit of work that's already well underway in this agenda. So We agree with those recommendations? Thank you. Item 9, Environmental Protection Act 1990, Part 2A, Contaminated Land Strategy 2022. Trevor's going to introduce this.
Thanks, Leader, for giving me the most scintillating item on the agenda. This council's current contaminated land strategy was adopted in 2014. Its main purpose is to provide an improved system for the identification of land which poses unacceptable risks to health or the environment. The Environmental Protection Act requires that local authorities inspect their areas with a view to identifying contaminated land. This authority will seek to minimise unnecessary burdens on the taxpayer by encouraging voluntary action to deal with contamination issues. It is a requirement of the guidance that each local authority has an adopted and published contaminated land strategy, which accords with the requirements of the guidance, which is periodically reviewed. The changes which have been made mainly include updated formatting, legislative background and government policy, and I therefore recommend this contaminated land strategy for 2022 to 2027 is approved and adopted.
Thank you, Trevor. Any comments? Yes, Steve.
This not necessarily desperate to do with this, but I was at Apedale on Sunday. I recommend Apedale to anybody. They do an excellent breakfast there. And I was up there, and the place is absolutely crawling with history when you go up there. It's a bit different. But some of these photos here, Apedale furnaces, absolutely fascinating. Not really to do with this, it's just that if anybody goes up there and has a look at the museum, or the old maps of the museum with the canals on and the railways and everything, absolutely fascinating. I say not really to do with this, but I recommend it to anybody to go up and have a look and up to Apedale.
Thank you, Steve. And you've got a plug in there for the museum now being reopened as well. So,
yes.
And Jill is happy with that. And we're going up to visit it, I believe, next week to have a look around, aren't we? I know a lot of people, residents, have already been in there. But no, back on track with this this item. Trevor's moved, obviously, that we endorse this contaminated land strategy. All agreed? Excellent. Item 10 is our forward plan, which is printed on page 219. As per we usually do, we'll go through page by page if there's any comments. I think the first page here is 218. Any comments? 219. Any comments? 220. Any comments? And that takes us up to the March cabinet. So a lot of business there, and also stuff to do with high street funds and town deals and budgets and stuff. So we've got a busy few months on cabinet. So all agreed forward plan. Thank you. Item 11 is urgent business. I don't have any urgent business. Item 12 is a disclosure of exact information. I don't have any at this meeting. And then I haven't received any indications from councillors who wish to speak to cabinet or any public attendance has been advised of me. So I call the meeting to a close. Thank you.